looking back to, but what about people who cannot afford tithing? A person cannot afford not to tithe. God has promised his blessing to those who tithe. God's blessing is on 90% of a person's income, can make that income go much further than 100% of a person's income can go without God's blessing. It is true that for some people the, pro- the prospect of tithing can seem daunting, but remember what Jesus said in Malachi 3 verse 10. Try me now in this. In other words, put me to test. Anyone who is uncertain about tithing is encouraged to put God into test and see how he is able to show himself to be faithful. Couldn't this system be open to abuse? Couldn't some individuals take advantage of this system for their own gain? Undoubtedly, such abuses have occurred, but in responsibility organization, the tithing is carefully managed and ministered are paid appropriately. Anywhere there are people, there will be imperfect organization, but the frailty of humanity should not keep people from being faithful to God. Does God want everyone to be rich? Evidently not. In John 12, verse 8, Jesus said, the poor you have with you already. It seems that there will always be the poor among us, even in the church. Just as wealth is not necessarily a sign of God's blessing, a lack of wealth is not a sign of God's disfavor. There is no reason to believe it is God's will for all his children to be prosperous. However, it is certainly God's will for all his children to be holy. But what about the people who tithe and still experience difficulty? Tithing is not a guarantee against hardship. Farmers who tithe might still experience drought or crop failure. Business people who tithe might still experience loss and hardship. Individuals who tithe still must live in a world full with challenges. Tithing is a demonstration of faithfulness to and love for God. The blessing that tithing does not excuse me. the blessing that tithing the blessing that comes from tithing cannot be measured in purely financial terms, and the practice of tithing does not miraculously guard against every hardship life might present. It does, however, bring the blessing of God. Should a person with tithes on their income before tax or after tax? The tax we pay to the government is a bill we pay, just like the mortgage payment or an electricity bill. Just as a person would not tithe on their income after all their bills have been paid, a person would not be content to tithe on their after-tax income. Paul's counsel seem appropriate. He who sows sparingly will also reap smoothly, and he who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. So let each one as he gives purpose in his heart, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loves a cheerful giver. Found in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 6 and 7. When we give to God bountifully, we will reap bountifully. When we give to God willingly, we can be certain His blessing will be present.